This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to Flipping 50, where I address your top questions and things you struggle with most so you can have more energy and less decision fatigue about what to eat, how to move, and you can change your thoughts to Flip 50 with the life and the energy you love in this second half. And I am super excited to talk to my next guest. As a #1 international best-selling author, leader, speaker, and educator in her field, Dr. Keirra Barr is a cutting-edge dermatologist who's known as an innovative thinker. A dual board-certified dermatologist, Dr. Barr has shared her life-changing ideas in business, educational health, and professional seminars on how to rejuvenate and amplify skin health naturally. So are you on the edge of your seat, ladies? Reverse sun damage, prevent and manage skin cancer, and how to build confidence, self-awareness, self-esteem, and resilience. So I'm all in. Dr. Barr shares her expertise as a domain subject matter expert, advisor to numerous startups, an editor of leading medical journals, and a researcher in ongoing clinical trials. As the Chief Wellness Officer of Resilient Health Institute, by embracing what is on the surface as well as what's below it, she is redefining the delivery of skin care. Welcome, Kiera. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
You've got, a great book coming out, and I'm really excited about diving into that. But before we get to that, I think the personal story behind why you're doing what you're doing is always of interest to any of us. So that personal reason for you to become interested in dermatologist, will you share a little bit of what got you here today?
Sure. I think it's important to just take a step back. And, most women think about their skin solely from a cosmetic standpoint. But the truth is, the skin is the best indicator we have for our overall health. And most women want to look younger and healthier. And the way to do that is actually not to treat the skin, but to treat what's underneath it. And when we begin to understand what's happening inside the body and address those issues, both psychological and chemical, we have the capacity to reverse our aging nearly 20 years. And that was my story. So my story actually goes back to my childhood. Yeah. So I was, in terms of the psychological component, I was born with 2 birthmarks on my face, and I went to elementary school and kids made fun of them, and they called them coffee stains, called me coffee stain face. And it was the first time I became acutely aware that my skin could be a source of shame, embarrassment, and humiliation. But I quickly learned that if I could cover those spots, mask them with a suntan, the teasing went away. So I basically dedicated my childhood and young adulthood to mastering that tan. And then I became a dermatologist, and I realized how dangerous my actions really had been and how much I had jeopardized my health. And ultimately, underwent dozens of biopsies and had to diagnose myself with melanoma on my arm, which is the most deadly skin cancer there is. So that was kind of my wake-up call, despite being, a medical expert supposed to know what's happening. Like, my childhood kind of followed me all the way through, and he had a huge impact on my overall state of well-being.
Wow. That's quite a story. Definitely. Oh my gosh. What a way to get where you're at. And your current book, The Skin Whisperer. I love that name. You talk about learning to hear the messages your skin is communicating to you. Give us an example, because I know there are a lot of listeners out there saying, my skin is screaming.
Yeah. And actually, in the book, I provide a little quiz to help you figure out whether your skin is whispering, talking to you, or screaming. And, that was my case. Like, my skin was screaming and I was completely deaf to it. So just the whole idea of taking notice, looking at the texture of your hair. Our hair grows in 3 cycles: a growing phase, a resting phase, and a falling out phase. And there are many things that can impact hair growth. And so just looking at your hair quality and texture, are you shedding more hair than you normally do? On an average day, you shed about 100 hairs, but there are times in your life, childbirth being one of them, stressful events, illnesses, and you wind up losing a lot more hair than you normally would. Is it more brittle? Is it graying prematurely? These are messages that your body's telling you that just by a visual inspection, you yourself may not be able to know exactly what's happening, but it's a clue that, hey, maybe I need to take a look at how I'm moving, how I'm sleeping, how I'm eating, what is happening in my life, as well as recruit the help of your medical professional to help you really dive deeper into the root cause of it.
Wow, brilliant. Yeah. And I didn't realize that was 100 hairs a day was average. And I hear so often from people who are, wondering, is that a sign of, thyroid issues? I'm losing a lot of hair here.
That's another big one. So it's not just scalp hair, but especially with thyroid disease, the lateral third of the eyebrows, alopecia, which is just a fancy name for hair loss. And there are different types of alopecia, but alopecia areata, which are discrete spots of hair loss on the scalp, which has become a little bit more common these days, that has an association with thyroid disease. So we see it a lot in kids. And so oftentimes there isn't. We do the blood work and nothing shows up, but it is an autoimmune process. Your immune cells, your lymphocytes are attacking those hair follicles. So when we see something like that on the skin, we know that the body is struggling. There's something that's triggering that reaction. So again, it's kind of that top to bottom, taking notice of how your hair is doing, the turgor of your skin. Are you dry? Are you breaking out? And really just tuning into what is happening on the surface so that you can really start to dive deep to understand what's happening below it.
That's great insight. So, what I hear, even though you're not saying it, so I'm really simplifying and dumbing this down, not for you listeners as if you need it, but for me. So when I'm thinking about going to the dermatologist to look at blemishes or breakouts or thinking about Botox, there's far more that, he or she could be doing for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing about Botox, right? The cosmetic industry is booming and there's no slowing it down. And there are individuals like I treat with Botox and to relax the wrinkles, but there's so much more to it than that. It's really you can relax the fine lines, but if you're not nourishing your body on every level, how long is that going to last? And it's not going to also take away the emotion that actually was driving those furrows in the first place.
Right.
So it's multifactorial for sure.
Okay. Just going to point out though, that you referenced furrows and I could have been talking about smile lines, lady.
Absolutely.
I'm calling your bluff. Okay.
But in terms of Botox, most women are coming because they don't like those angry 11s in your brows. They always look angry or they feel like they have a resting like bitch. And when you look in the mirror, it has a huge impact. What you see and who you see in the mirror. It's this constant dialogue. And so if you can soften those lines, it can have a huge impact with the communication that you're having with yourself.
That's so agree. Yeah. And I think you probably get this like every day, many times, multiple times. But, I think that, a woman in her 50s, we're still thinking young, and this may go for you if you're listening, you're in your 60s or your 70s as well. But I think we pass by the mirror sometimes and we're like, wait a minute, something's not congruent here. And that, makes a big difference in what we put out to the public.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That whole concept of how you show up in your skin, right? That feeling comfortable in your skin. It's not just about what we see on the surface.
Yeah.
It's how, you feel as the person, and the whole emotional component. But a lot of times what you see on the surface can cause a lot of stress, anxiety, and overwhelm, especially as we are maturing. things are popping up. You may not know what they are. You feel like the outside is not congruent with how you're feeling inside.
Yes.
And so, yeah, it makes a big difference.
All right. One of the things you talk about, you think it's really important for women in midlife to get comfortable with their naked bodies so they can be vigilant about skincare. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. If the best advice I can give is to get naked, so many reasons, right? It's, I think there's a lot of body shaming that goes on. And so learning to embrace all your nooks and crannies and celebrate them is so important. But more than anything, with regards to skin cancer prevention, which is a huge topic for me, both professionally as well as personally, is when you get naked, you have the ability to take notice of every inch of your skin, and it can be life-saving if you check your skin every day, every day, but every month on the same date. So I always like to recommend the date of your birthday that you check your birthday suit, looking for any uninvited guests. And so those would be any spots that stand out from your typical crowd. And with regards to skin cancer, well, most people, I think, don't appreciate that skin cancer is the most prevalent cancer in our country right now. There are more than 5 million cases diagnosed in 3 million people every single year, and it costs over $8 billion to manage it. So it's not just a personal health issue, it's a public health issue. So if I can share any information to help you not be a statistic, that would make me so happy. So what you're really looking for, especially with regards to melanoma, which is the most deadly skin cancer, you're looking for any spots on your skin that meet the ABCDE criteria. So A stands for asymmetry. You're looking for a spot on your skin that if you were to cut it down the middle, it is not the same on both sides. B is for border. So you're looking for something that ideally has a sharp demarcated edge. You know where it begins and where it ends. And so if it has a feathery edge and a regular border, unclear margins, that's one that you should bring to your dermatologist to check out. C is for color, something that is varying in color. The caveat there is many of us have what we call a signature nevus. So it's a spot, for instance, I have one that is brown and has dots in it, but I've got greater than 50 of those. So that is my abnormally normal. So it's just kind of getting familiar with your own patterns. So you're looking for things that have multiple colors in them, black, brown, red, or pink. And D is for diameter, something that's larger than a pencil eraser is the classic teaching, but that's a really soft call. And I'd almost kick that one to the curb because we see melanomas that can be quite tiny, but it is something that to pay attention to, so that if a spot that used to be small is now larger than a pencil eraser and keeps growing, that's when you want to bring to your dermatologist. And that's where E plays a role. And that's for evolution, a lesion that is a spot that is changing over time. And so the beautiful thing in this day and age with technology, I know we were just talking about technology a little bit. It's an asset when it comes to checking your skin, because you can use your smartphone to take pictures of any spots that you're concerned of, and you can track them month to month to month. And so when you're checking your skin, I encourage you, look in your eyes, look in your mouth, look between your fingers, the bottoms of your feet. If you've gotten a mani-pedi, before you layer on that nail polish again, look at your nail beds. Make sure there's no pigmented lesions there, because melanoma can occur underneath the nails. And especially with your intimate bits, women, grab that hand mirror and get to know yourself, because you will know your skin better than anybody else. And for the hard to reach places like your scalp, within your eyes, further in your mouth, recruit your hairstylist, your ophthalmologist, your dentist, your GYN, your significant other to check your back. I mean, recruit everyone and anyone that you can, because the earlier that you find a spot, the quicker that you can get it evaluated. And not all spots that look funny are anything to worry about. We do get these things called gifts of maturity that pop up that that may be cause for concern if you don't know what you're looking at. So that's why, checking yourself on a regular basis, going to your dermatologist at least once a year. But if you see anything that raises your eyebrow, get in sooner.
Great point. And I'm just wondering, is there any way to re-gift or return that gift?
Yeah, well,
What's the policy especially on that?
There are ways. Again, the beauty of technology, especially as we mature, many of us get these little red spots on our skin. And those are called cherry angiomas. They're actually just benign, harmless collections of dilated blood vessels. And those can be zapped with a laser and removed, as well as some people call them barnacles on the ship of life. I just call them gifts of maturity, but these are benign thickenings on the top layer of the skin called seborrheic keratosis that often pop up in our 30s, 40s, 50s, and on. Again, harmless, but can raise concern or they can occur in areas that are really inconvenient, like along the panty or bra line and cause irritation. And absolutely, those can be removed quite easily.
Great. Okay. So there's hope. All right. Way to go. Good save. Very good save. All right. And I picked up from you, right? And realized that it's not just about what goes on your skin, but it's 4 pillars of lifestyle, nutrition, movement, and mindset. So you are certainly talking my language here. They impact your skin as well as they impact the body. And we talk about that so frequently here. Can you just kind of park at each one of those and talk about why it's so important to have all 4 from the skin's angle?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just like anything, something in isolation just isn't going to, it's like a car. You need 4 tires to drive the car. If you only have one, you still can't move. So it's really the synergy of everything in order to get the best outcomes. So with regards to nutrition, especially, and I think it can be overwhelming at times. We think that we have to do these grand sweeping gestures, but just basic things of reading labels, making sure that there aren't a host of chemicals that your body doesn't know how to process, added sugars, and really nourishing your body as well as your skin with lots of phytonutrients, those rainbow plants and fruits and veggies to be able to get the vitamins and nutrients that you need. Because in order to create the building blocks for collagen, elastin, to keep the skin well hydrated, your body needs that. More than that, it helps combat the environmental stressors you're exposed to on a daily basis, like air pollution and the ultraviolet rays. So your body has an amazing antioxidant system to deal with these free radicals that are generated from UV exposure and the chemicals that you're exposed to every day. But your body supply is limited. So you need to kind of replenish those with good nutrition. So that's where nutrition plays a big role to keep the integrity of the skin healthy and supply the building blocks that it needs. And then with regards to sleep is a powerful healing process for your body. It's a time when your hydration balance is restored. It's when growth hormone is peaking to help stimulate and regenerate and rejuvenate your skin. It's also a time when our body creates melatonin. So melatonin actually is made in various parts of your body, including your skin, your gut, but primarily in a small gland in your brain called the pineal gland. And it helps, it's your circadian rhythm, the natural rhythms of the body are so vital to the overall functioning of your body in terms of hormone balancing. And so melatonin plays a significant role in skin health because it plays a role in hair follicle So keeping your hair growing and healthy. And it's recently been shown that melatonin can play a significant role in skin cancer prevention as well as in the management of skin cancer. So it can make a significant impact on your body's ability to deal with the environmental stressors.
Wow. I did not know.
Yeah. It's really exciting. They're actually using topical formulations of melatonin as well as oral supplementation in skin cancer patients. But hey, you can get it for free if you can get a good night's sleep. And there's lots of ways that we can do that. I personally didn't prioritize my sleep for years. And I often wonder, wow, is that a big contributing factor why my skin was a mess for nearly a decade? And since I've changed my diet and really paying attention to sleep and changing how I exercise and really being more mindful of my mindset, I haven't had a biopsy in 6 years because I haven't needed one.
Nice.
So,
yeah. And that is so important. And many of you listeners have done one of the programs, either done the do-it-yourself after 50 course, or you've done the 28-day kickstart. And you know that you may have come to it thinking, okay, I'm going to get all this exercise information, or I'm going to get all this exercise information or nutrition about balancing hormones. But we often have to start with sleep in order to get the rest. So you're just pulling another reason in why sleep may be at the top of the, mountain or the triangle as far as what has to happen first before the rest.
Absolutely. I mean, to your point about hormone balancing, when your sleep is out of whack, your main hormones that are affected are your cortisol and your melatonin. Well, when your cortisol is all jacked up and elevated, it messes with all your other hormones. Makes it really difficult to balance your blood sugars, your estrogen, your progesterone. All of that is thrown out of balance, and it can really begin by just harnessing in your sleep. And it's easier said than done sometimes.
Right.
But there are things to unplug and really make it a priority. It's like I always talk about negotiating your non-negotiables and bedtime and kind of doing a brain dump of all your worries into a journal, or just discussing them with a friend or your spouse, just to clear your mind so that you truly can get that good rest that you need.
Absolutely. Good. So you're hearing it again, ladies. Yep. Sleep is number one. Love that. Okay.
Sleep is real.
Talk a little bit about movement.
Yeah. So, I think there's so much information out there. It's like, what program are you going to do? Are you going to do CrossFit? Or are you going to?
No, you're going to do Flipping 50. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Are there, what is the latest trend in the fad? And I'll tell you that I thought that doing more meant I was going to get more out of it, that I was going to be thinner, be fitter, be this, be that. And it did the exact opposite. It just stressed my body out. And I found that doing less and moving your body in a way that actually feels good because you want to just feel good rather than look a certain way is it is the key to balancing your hormones for sure. Because I wound up tearing my hip, just the stress of the wear and tear from endurance running. And so I think the biggest takeaway is movement is important, but it's like Goldilocks. Not too little, not too much. You got to find your sweet spot. And it may take some trial and error to figure out what is right for your body.
Great. Talk to me about movement, though, in regard to youthful skin, improving skin.
Yeah. So a lot of that has to do with the stress hormone. So when your cortisol levels, if you are over exercising, that can increase your cortisol levels, and cortisol can set off the inflammatory cascade. So lots of inflammatory chemicals in your body, which can cause contribute to premature aging, fine lines, wrinkles, alter your hydration status, make you look, affect the texture, the turgor of your skin, contribute to flares of eczema, psoriasis, acne. So it is multifactorial. So exercising too much, as well as, when you're sweating and maybe using products on the skin to cleanse the skin, and then those can disturb your normal pH balance, which should be slightly acidic. It can cause a whole host of irritation and rev up the inflammatory conditions. So exercise and kind of hitting your sweet spot, and it has a lot to do with hormone balance.
Great. Yep. And totally concur. But what I really want for listeners to hear is, number one, it's your sweet spot. So Kiera's level of optimal frequency, duration, intensity of exercise is different than Deborah's and different than yours. So you've got to, there is a baseline. Many of you know that I have specific recommendations about where to begin that are always probably undershooting where you're at right now. And then you need to play a little bit with that. So privately with clients, that's exactly what we do, is we dial in, what's happening, what's the response, what do we need to do based on that. And, doing too much can accelerate aging. And we're more keenly aware of that now because we can see those results so much more than we could when we were 20. It was still happening, but we had more resilient, more elasticity in our skin, and we couldn't see what was happening. But I think it's easy to see if you line up, some ultra endurance athletes, next to some casual Zumba dancers, and, I'm just pulling strings here, pulling examples out of thin air, but there's a major difference in, what you're doing. And I think you talked about this earlier. I call it the joy factor. Never start an exercise based on how many calories or fat does this burn. Start with what brings me joy. What am I going to want to continue? What do I look forward to? What do I enjoy doing? Not just doing it for the results. There's a big difference in the outcome on your skin. And that's, coming back to your message, really, that's what's happening within as well.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's that I love that joy factor. For me, after my surgery, recovered from my hip surgery, I discovered Pilates because I was having chronic pain. And it really became a time of moving meditation. It was my form of meditation because you're so in the moment trying to focus on your form and your breathing and whatever the instrument is saying, and trying not to die, because it's actually it's so much harder than I ever thought it was. These small movements. Right? Yeah. And so it really forced me to be just in the moment. And I've never experienced that. Running creates a different, the endorphins, and my mind is free and a lot of creativity. And, but the Pilates was something so different. And I think that's what's so awesome, that, have fun with the movement, do find the things that bring you joy, and in the variety, because the benefits that it can give you, emotionally, spiritually, as well as physically, are pretty awesome.
Totally agree. I love that you said that. And then, okay, so we said, doing too much exercise is really rapidly probably accelerating your aging process. So come back to the flip side though. So I've always had this thought, and when I was younger, at least I would get a lot of compliments about my skin, and I wasn't doing anything special, but I kept thinking, this is really just, I've always been somebody who has to go to bed early. I am that girl that I will kill the party and then leave. And I, always thought exercise kind of accelerates turnover or sloughing off or something of my skin. There is something there that, is a plus. So I'm going to let you take my jumble of words. And is there truth to that?
You mean in terms of doing exercise and the benefits,
yes.
the attributed? So we talked about doing too much and the impact of stress, but doing exercise, there's so many benefits to it, increasing blood flow, detoxification. When you're sweating, your skin is your largest organ, and as such, your largest detoxification organ. So kind of flushing out it's your body's way of kind of purging things that it doesn't need, doesn't want to use. Blood flow and circulation gives you that nice rosy glow, and balancing, it helps with insulin resistance. So, and utilizing, the food that you're eating as fuel. So that helps regulate not just your cortisol, not just your insulin, but, all your other hormones. So it keeps things in check and keeps your body is an incredible machine. So it keeps that machine running at an optimal level. And so when things are running on all cylinders, your skin is going to glow. Things are going to be working as they should. Now, as we mature, as we get older, as we're, 50 and above, actually starting in our 30s, collagen production does slow down a bit. So that's a lot where sleep plays a role and good nutrition, because eating sugars, being exposed to environmental toxins, it creates what we call accelerated glycation end products, which are essentially proteins that bind onto your collagen and your elastin, make them less flexible, less resilient, causing breakdown and premature aging. So exercise helps kind of minimize the impact of that, because it helps keep your blood sugar regulated. So those accelerated glycation end products aren't being produced in as great a quantity. So that's another added benefit of exercise, and maybe why your skin is always glowing.
Well, I would say always, but we're striving for that, right? Good days, bad days. All right. So that brings me to this question that really hits home for me, and I think probably a lot of women will agree. And I would love, if you're listening, for you to add a comment to this one, because women in midlife have unique challenges with skin, and I think unique simultaneous challenges, wrinkles, sunspots, even acne. And I don't recall getting in line for that, but somehow, I can say yes to all of the above. So how should women, or how can we change up our skincare regimen as we age to accommodate, all of that vacillating coincidence going on at the same time?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it really is a 360 job. It's an inside out and outside in job. So from the outside, using a gentle cleanser, as I mentioned earlier, your skin has a naturally slightly acidic pH. And lots of people are talking about the gut microbiome, but your skin has its own microbiome as well. And that also prefers a slightly acidic pH. So when you are choosing your products, your skincare products, especially cleansers or toners or such, make sure that they are pH balanced, so that you're not disrupting your natural acid mantle, that thin layer on the top layer of the skin, as well as your skin microbiome. Because when you disrupt either of those, it disrupts your permeability barrier and makes you more vulnerable to infection, irritation, rashes, redness, all of that. So a gentle cleanser. And if you don't get to wash your face in the morning, no biggie, but washing your face in the evening is most important, because air pollution has been shown to be right up there for causing discoloration of the skin. It stimulates your melanocytes to produce melanin, and that's where that uneven pigmentation comes in. So cleansing your face on a nightly basis with a gentle cleanser is going to be key. And then using antioxidant serums with vitamin C, vitamin E really helps topically combat the environmental stressors that you're being exposed to. And I always love to recommend a topical retinoid, which is a vitamin A derivative, because it does help skin cell turnover. So we use it from kids to adulthood. So we use it in our young patients for acne because it does help unplug the pores, increase skin cell turnover. But as we mature, it helps stimulate collagen. So to give you that plump, youthful glow again. The only caveat is we only use it at night because it is not stable in the sun. And it does also, so the chemicals within it break down in the daylight. It also makes you more sensitive to the sun the next day because it is kind of helping you shed those top layers of your skin. So you need to make sure that you're protecting yourself from the sun the next day. And so the morning routine would include a moisturizer that has at least an SPF 30 in it daily.
Great recommendations. All right. So toughest question. Is there a question you wish I would have asked you?
That is a great question. I think, we just touched on it a little bit, but if you were to ask me what products or, the top things that I would recommend to protect your skin or to use for it would be sun protection, and topical steroids. And sun protection, and the reason why I say that, ladies, is 90% of premature aging is attributed to sun exposure. And so if I can appeal to your vanity, fine lines, wrinkles, uneven pigmentation, you got to protect yourself. But sunscreen should actually be your last line of defense, not your first. So everything that we talked about, eating well, moving well, sleeping well, loving on yourself, all of that stuff might sound a little woo, but it's so critical so that your body can really amplify its reserve of nutrients and antioxidants to combat the environmental stressors, especially sun. And then you can layer on the sunscreen. It should be part of your everyday routine, but it really should be your last line of defense, not your first.
Phenomenal. That was great advice. And so just to clarify, by the way, I'm going to go do a poll today on the Flipping 50 Facebook page about how many women actually have sunscreen on right now. And I want to clarify. So I know you said earlier, is it 30 or above at SPF?
Mm-hmm. That's right. And SPF is the sun protection factor. So it's only giving you an indication of the UVB rays. So you need to make sure that your tube of sunscreen says broad spectrum. So you know that it's giving you UVA protection as well.
Love that. Okay. And so everybody's going to want more information. I just know they're going to want to touch base with you and or check out the book, The Skin Whisperer. Where can they find more, Keirra?
Yeah, so they can visit me at chooseresilience.com. That's the website for the Resilient Health Institute, which is where I'm at. And they can actually get a free copy of the book if they want by going to the website. And there's a tab that says book, and they can click on that and explore it.
Great. That is so generous. I'm going to add that to the notes. Everybody, if you're jogging, lifting weights, or commuting, don't grab a pencil. I've got you covered. It'll be in the show notes. And if we missed a question that you'd like to ask, please leave it below the show link at flipping50.com and join us on that Flipping 50 TV Facebook page to get all the juicy resources, the links to Keirra, to the book, and to her social media sites. Just check on today's show notes at flipping50.com, and that's /podcast. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave a rating in iTunes. It really matters. And share this with a friend to surround yourself with a supportive community of women on the same journey. What are you waiting for? Start Flipping 50 today.